Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to the top 8 from the Greenwood, Indiana City Championship between Joseph Horth on the left and Isaac Soto on the right. Now, Isaac was the undefeated player in Swiss. He was 7-0, I believe, against Joseph, who just squeaked in at the 8th seed with his Blastoise Keldeo deck. So we're going to have Isaac using a Klinklang deck, which is a deck we saw kind of fall out of popularity once the format rotated. But now it's back. Keldeo EX helps it out a lot, and we'll see exactly what happens here. Unfortunately for Isaac, he just kind of attached and passed on his first turn, so that didn't help him too much. But we'll see what Joseph does here. He's got a computer search, so we're seeing all sorts of new cards in these games already. He's got the Keldeo EX on the bench. Of course, Blastoise Keldeo is a brand new archetype, just brought to us with boundaries crossed. So we'll get to see some brand new stuff come into play here. Well, I'm not sure exactly how this matchup goes. You would assume, if the Blastoise deck gets set up enough and gets enough water energy on a Keldeo EX, it just starts knocking stuff out in one hit. And then what can Klinklang do? It doesn't really have energy acceleration. That is the downfall of the deck when it comes down to it. But if Klinklang gets enough energy into play before that happens, I think he'll be just fine. So it'll be a close matchup. It has so many options at its disposal. And, I can see this matchup really going either way. Now, we saw an interesting decision from Joseph. He had the rare candy in his hand, so he decided to do computer search for a Bianca instead of a Juniper. You can see he didn't draw too well off of that. So things not going too well for either player here so far. But it looks like we got a rare candy. Does Isaac have a turn 2 Klinklang here? He might have it. Now, what could have happened is he was just kind of holding on to his hand, and if he had a Juniper, there was no reason to play it. So we'll see if he actually had a Juniper in his hand, and nope, he has nothing. So that was just an old-fashioned, I got nothing, but at least I got my Klinklang out. I at least have that going for me. And Isaac, draws a Tool Scrapper. This is not going to help him out at all. He's got a Klink in his hand. I think he's got, let's see, maybe an Ultra Ball in there too. Might consider playing. I think he's got a Giant Cape as well, so that's an interesting card. We'll have to see if that comes into play. But once again, he's missing energy drops, which is the worst part about all this. You cannot afford to miss energy drops with this deck because you don't have any energy acceleration, so if you don't get those into play, how do you ever win? You can't. It's not like Blastoise where you get your stage 2 out and then you just rain down energy. No, you have to do it one by one, and your strategy is just kind of to conserve your energy in play. And if you can't do that, well, you're just in all sorts of trouble. Isaac, unfortunately, does not draw much of anything. He's got a Blend in his hand. That's not really going to help. His Darkrai's probably going down. It looks like Joseph, his prizes are a little bit off camera, so he does have 6 prizes left at the beginning of the game. I'm not sure if you guys can see that or not, but he has 6 prizes left to take, so giving up these 2 prizes is not the biggest deal in the world. Sure, you don't want to do this, but I mean, sometimes you just kind of have to. And Isaac just does not have anything going for him right now. He is kind of just putting energy on board just in case and passing. Now, if you're Joseph, you have that N in your hand, you definitely don't want to play that. You've seen that Isaac has absolutely nothing to work with. So he's making the correct play here by not using his N. This is something that a lot of players screw up with, but so far, Joseph has played this perfectly. He's done everything right. And this has just kind of been a slow game where we've seen nothing but manual attachments. This can happen sometimes with Stage 2 decks. They just don't always get set up. And it gets kind of weird. But we'll see. Anything can happen. Especially because Isaac did draw a Skyla. So we'll see what he does. He can play that Skyla. If he plays Tropical Beach, he can grab one of those, refill his hand up to 7, and he'll get right back on track. He already has his Klinklang out. He's got 2 energy on board, so he could really just go from here. As long as his Klinklang doesn't get knocked down and he doesn't lose all of his energy, he should be okay. He'll be down, 3 prizes if his Klink gets knocked out too, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, he can come back. This is a deck where you have so many different attackers at your disposal. You have so many different options that you can come back from these kinds of situations. So he's going to play an Ultra Ball here, get rid of a Giant Cape and a Tool Scrapper. And let's see what he grabs. Looks like he's going to grab a Keldeo EX, which is nice. He could also rush in and just kind of assume that Joseph won't have all the cards to knock out his Keldeo. He would need a Rare Candy, Blastoise, 3 more energy to get a knockout on a Keldeo EX here, so that's probably not a concern. And then next turn, if he just draws a Max Potion, he can go ahead and use that. We'll see what he decides to do. Klinklang does allow you to shift gear, move energy around. Blend counts as a metal, it's one of the types on there. Prism would also count, which he does play in this deck. And now we're going to see a Tropical Beach for 6, and here we go. Isaac's going to get right back on track. So maybe we'll see a game here after all. Now it looks like Joseph does have, there we go, a Rare Candy and a Blastoise. So he's starting to get into gear here. This game's about to pick up really quickly. And he does play an N now, because he really doesn't have any energy in his hand. He's only going to get 4 cards, but it's better than what he would have had. And also Isaac does now have a fresh 7 cards. So this is the situation where you do want to play N. So far, neither player has done anything wrong. This has been a very clean game. And it's been pretty slow for the most part, but overall this has been pretty standard textbook play here. And we'll see where this goes from here. You know, if Joseph can never get a big Keldeo with like 6 energy on it, he's going to be in some trouble. Because all that happens then is Isaac's just going to shift gear, move the energy off, Max Potion, and he's just going to keep pummeling Joseph's attackers with, well, pretty much whatever he wants. You know, this Klinklang deck can use any attacker it really wants to. Keldeo is nice because the blend energy for metal also uses water, so it powers up Secret Sword. It uses Prism, which also powers up Secret Sword. Then it allows you to use stuff like Darkrai EX. You can also use stuff like Terrakion, which uses the fighting type of the blend. So there's all sorts of options you get here, just because of these multicolored energy. And there is the Prism. That's going to be a big one. That allows you to give your Pokemon free retreat with Darkrai's Dark Cloak. And we're going to see Isaac Ultra Ball here. He took a Secret Sword for 110 onto his Keldeo, so he's going to need a Max Potion this turn. If he can get one, he'll be just fine, I would think. If not, he might be in some trouble. I don't know. We'll find out. So we see an Ultra Ball, and he also plays Sigilyph, so that's going to be a big card in this matchup. It's a card Blastoise actually struggles to deal with quite a bit. Now, obviously, you can attack with Blastoise, but that takes 4 energy, and you probably want to commit your energy to other stuff, like Keldeo, maybe Mewtwo. So it's really annoying to have to devote 4 energy to a Blastoise just to knock out an annoying little Sigilyph. And then even when you do that, they can just follow up by knocking out your Blastoise. So it's a tough card to deal with if you're the Blastoise deck, especially in a situation like this for Joseph, where he only has 1 card in his hand and it's an N. So things right now are really swinging around back in Isaac's favor. He had a rough start, you know, he's down a couple prizes. But just like that, Klinklang is a deck that can make some big comebacks. So we're going to see what happens from here. There's plenty of stuff that can still happen. He does draw the Sigilyph. He played a Juniper. He had to discard quite a few energy from that, but that's okay. As long as he doesn't ever lose all of his energy, it should be alright. If you can retain your energy on your board, usually you are just fine. And he's going to take the safest route possible. He does Max Potion his Keldeo as well. And just Psychic for 80. Setting up that Keldeo EX for a knockout next turn from either his own Keldeo's Secret Sword or from a Darkrai Night Spear. Either one of those would finish off that Keldeo EX for the final 90 HP. So right now, Sigilyph is doing a great job. Joseph's going to need to draw some stuff, definitely, if he wants to have a chance in this game anymore. You know, if he doesn't get anything else going, if he doesn't get enough energy, he's certainly going to get overwhelmed. There's no question about that. It's just the reality of the situation. Maybe he could consider just taking a turn to use Tropical Beach to refill his hand, because he does have the prize lead, and if he can ever just power up a Keldeo with a ton of energy, just get that monster knockout one turn on an EX, he should be able to end up winning the game. You can take two different strategies here, just try to keep the pressure on, force Isaac to have his max potions, stuff like that, or you can just go the more conservative route, Tropical Beach, and just kind of use your advantage and see what happens. It looks like Joseph's going to take the more aggressive route. He's going to catch out a Klink, get a knockout. He does have a Skyla in hand, so next turn he could grab either a supporter or an energy retrieval. Either one of those works. And power up another attacker, but Skyla's a card that's just kind of good for one turn, and then you don't really have options beyond that. You get to search for a card, sure, but then you leave yourself with an empty hand afterwards, pretty much. Which is nice early on when you can just search for that rare candy, get your Blastoise out, and then go from there. But in a situation like this, the later the game goes on, the worse Skyla's going to be. Now Isaac, he Skyla's for a computer search, discarding Terrakion EX and another Klinklang. We'll see what he grabs with this. Looks like everything is really starting to pick up for him here. Starting to get into gear. Pun very intended. And, I gotta say, I think Isaac is in control of this game at this point. Sure, he's down 3 prizes, but just look at what the situation is like for both these guys. Isaac has everything he could ever want. His attackers, they just kind of stay alive. They're on board forever. Unless Joseph can pull off that big turn where he just goes, drops 6 water on a Keldeo and then Secret Sword for a knockout. He's not going to have a great shot at winning. The max potions are just way too difficult to overcome because Keldeo is a great, powerful attacker, but when it comes down to it, it's got 170 hit points, and if your opponent is healing and you're not, you're going to be in some trouble. But we do see Joseph top decks a Juniper, so here we go. He could get a lot of stuff off of this. The first card's a Roserade, so he could draw any number of things to help him out here. Even like a catcher energy retrieval would knock out the Klinklang, and that would give him a huge chance of winning this game. But wow, looks like he whiffed completely. Yikes. He has about 4 supporters in his hand, a Roserade and a Tool Scrapper. This was a very, very bad draw off of that Juniper. Even just like a water energy with those cards would have been nice. But, yuck. That was pretty bad. Sometimes you just don't draw the cards you need. That's kind of the luck of the draw aspect when you're playing cards that just draw straight from the top of your deck, as we can see there. But, it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. So, Isaac, he's going to have a big opportunity here. If he can knock out that Blastoise, he can really cut off all the options for Joseph. It's just going to be, he takes away the option to Deluge and just drop a bunch of energy down. If he doesn't have energy acceleration, then obviously you cannot keep up with the Klinklang deck. It's just going to revolve attackers. It's got a revolving door of attackers. It's just going to keep using them over and over. Retreat between them. Max Potion. I believe he also plays Shaman EX in that deck, so at some point that's going to come down to. And, I think I did see Isaac have a catcher in his hand. So if he takes out the Blastoise this turn, he made a good play the previous turn using Night Spear, putting 30 on the Blastoise, realizing if I take that out, I'm really just going to leave my opponent with very few options. All he's going to be able to do is attack with Secret Sword. Shaman does not exist in this format. The Celebration Wind 1. If that still existed, then maybe this would be a problem, but it doesn't. So that energy is just stuck on the Keldeo EX. Basically, he's thinking, alright, the most that Joseph could do next turn is 130 damage with Secret Sword. That's it. He can't do anything else. Maybe the biggest play he can make is to catcher that Darkrai. Looks like Isaac does not have a max potion, so that's really all there is to it. we're going to see Isaac, I think, tie the game up at 3-3. And we'll go from there. So he's going to Secret Sword, knock out the Blastoise for 110 damage. And we'll see what Joseph decides to do here. He's got a lot of options, obviously. He could like Roserade, grab a catcher maybe, bring out the Darkrai and then end Isaac. Or probably the better route for him is going to be to just kind of try to get another Blastoise out. Hope that Isaac does not end him. Get another Squirtle on board. And see what happens. If he can catcher the Darkrai this turn, take 2 prizes there. Use his attachment on the active Keldeo just to give himself the threat of attaching and then catching the Klinklang for his final prize. I don't know how many catchers he actually has left, but I'm thinking that's the right route to go here. So he does, looks like a Skyla for a level ball. It's going to get him a Squirtle. Get that out here. Just to give himself the option to get a Blastoise next turn. Because if you can get a Blastoise out, anything can happen. He can just drop a bunch of energy down. And there's nothing that can be done about it. Let's be clear, if Joseph draws everything he needs in these final couple turns, he wins. Isaac can't stop that. There's absolutely no way. Looks like Joseph decides to attach to the benched Keldeo EX. I think I would have liked just attaching to the active one. Just in case Isaac decides to catcher your Squirtle. Because then you have an option to actually win the game. I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but that's just kind of the thought process I have. But Joseph's going to go down to 1 prize here, and we'll see what Isaac decides to do. He's going to Ultra Ball away a Charge Beam Klinklang and an N. And what's he going to grab? Another Keldeo. That's fine. And what is he going to put down? Okay, there is the Shaman EX. That's going to be the big card here. It's going to... Oh, and an N to 1. So this is a huge play from Isaac. It's really going to make things super difficult for Joseph to even have a shot to win this game. I mean, to win, he probably need to draw a Juniper, first of all. And then, like, Rare Candy, Blastoise, and then 2 energy to finish off this Shaman. So he's really just making it as difficult as possible for Joseph to win this game. He can just retreat to the Shaman EX. He doesn't have the free retreat that Darkrai provides anymore, but that's okay. Sigilyph only costs 1 to retreat. And if something gets catchered, he can always just rush in with Keldeo. Not that big of a deal. And here we go. We got a Revenge Blast for about 8 zillion damage. Now, what is Joseph going to do here? He can promote anyone. Doesn't really matter. Keldeo can just rush in no matter what. I might promote Squirtle. If he plays Wartortle, you could always withdraw if you draw that. That's kind of silly, but that is an option. But, uh-oh, he top decked to Juniper. Let's see. There's Blastoise. Does he draw Rare Candy? If he draws it, he wins the game. And, oh, he missed it. Just 1 card. If he drew the Rare Candy in Blastoise, he would have enough to just rush in, Secret Sword, and the game was over. So just like that, the game could have turned around. Joseph could have won this first game, and Isaac would have taken a tough loss. But now, game's over. Isaac's just going to Revenge Blast for 180 damage with that Shaman EX, and Joseph realizes this, extends the hand, says good game, and Isaac Soto will win the first game here in this best 2 out of 3 series. So this is the top 8 from the Greenwood, Indiana City Championship. This is the best 2 out of 3, so these guys are going to shuffle up and all that good stuff. And we'll be right back with the second game in a bit. We'll skip right to that. Alright, so we are getting set up here for game 2 in this best 2 out of 3 series. Looks like Joseph's going to start with a Squirtle. Now, he did lose the first game, so he can choose who goes first. Obviously, he will choose to go first, I would hope. And we'll go from there. So I did not get to see what Isaac starts with, but I'll see in a second. We got a Sigilyph and a Darkrai. Sigilyph, of course, is probably the safest starter in the whole format. I cannot think of many things that can actually knock out a Sigilyph on the first turn, outside of like a continuous tumble Chansey flipping 3 heads. It's just not going to happen. Mewtwo can't hit it. Tornadus EX can't hit it. Most of the things that are going to beat you on turn 1 are EXs. And it's just not going to happen against Sigilyph because of that safeguard ability. And we have Joseph, sorry. Skyla's for a rare candy. And that means he's going to get a turn 2 Blastoise. I mean, you don't just Skyla for a rare candy and pass if you don't have a Blastoise in your hand. So if Isaac has an N, which he does, obviously you play that there because you want to deny your opponent that turn 2 Blastoise. That's just pretty straightforward play. You know your opponent has a Blastoise in his hand, unless he's playing some sick mind game on you where he wants you to play an N. Most of the time you would just Skyla for a supporter if you had a bad hand. So you can see he has a good hand, you play the N, disrupt him, force him to redraw those cards. The other interesting thing is that Joseph decided to attach to his Squirtle. In most situations, I would say that's a bad idea, but considering the fact that he'll need to knock out Sigilyph at some point, it's probably not the worst idea in the world. Just get the energy out there. Whatever. Should be fine. And now Isaac's just going to Beach for 2. And uh-oh, we got Rare Candy Blastoise. Ultra Ball. Wow, this is a perfect start for Joseph. Everything he could really want is right here at his fingertips. He's got a Water in his hand and a Juniper as well. So he's going to power up his Blastoise. This is kind of what Sigilyph does, though. Even though this is really bad for Isaac. And wow, Joseph actually whiffed the 2 Water to get a knockout here. So it's not great for him. Jeez, this was a great start until that happened. He actually decided to counter Joseph's Tropical Beach there, which is a weird play. I think maybe he got a little frustrated there, seeing that I didn't draw the Water, and he instinctively countered the Tropical Beach when he could have just kind of played his hand out and then used it, and then drew more cards, because he does not have a supporter in his hand. So that's a potential mistake there from Joseph. Isaac did not play an N this turn, so he's going to have to live with his hand there. Maybe, yeah, you probably should just use Tropical Beach there, just to give yourself more cards. I mean, if Blastoise sets up in this matchup, it is going to be the favorite. There's no question about that. If you can get enough energy into play, you're going to be fine. But instead, he decides to put down that Pokemon Center, which is a nice tech in a Keldeo Blastoise deck. But in that situation, you probably just hold on to it and draw your cards. We'll see what happens from here, though. What seemed like a perfect start from Joseph might not turn out to be very good. We have a slow start from both players, but Isaac's start is expected to be slow. Klinklang really can't do anything until the 3rd turn of the game. And, Joseph just doesn't have anything now. He just passes. And it looked like such an explosive start from him, but he's just 1 energy short of doing anything. And now what can he do? But sit there as Isaac starts to set up slowly. And, you know, if Joseph really doesn't put it on any pressure, I gotta expect Isaac to be at an advantage here. How else can you put it? We'll see what he does this turn. If he could get a Keldeo out this turn and then maybe just Secret Sword the Blastoise and then knock it out next turn, jeez, that would be such a devastating blow to Joseph. Taking away his Blastoise, taking away his way to accelerate energy, that's just not going to be fun for him. So we'll see what happens, though. Isaac is playing a Skyla. See what he grabs with this. Looks like he's going to go for an Ultra Ball, which I like. He can probably just Ultra Ball for a Keldeo EX, Russian, and then Secret Sword for whatever he has. If he has just a Metal, then I guess it'll only do 70, but that's fine. You can live with that. 70 and 70 will just knock out a Blastoise. Looks like we do have the Ultra Ball. Couldn't see if there was a different energy besides a metal in his hand. If he has a prism or a blend, he can actually just Secret Sword for 90, which is nice. You start to build up extra energy in play. The basic metal in this deck really just doesn't do much for you. It's just kind of your other energy you get in play. Blend and Prism are the ones you love because they can just do whatever you want. They provide multiple types. Metal is just, another one that you can move around. It's whatever. It provides the colorless cost for your attacks, which most Pokemon do have nowadays. Darkrai takes 2 dark and a colorless. Keldeo takes 3 colorless. Sigilyph takes a psychic and 2 colorless, so they just kind of act as your extra energy that you need to fulfill the attack. And here we do see just a Secret Sword for 70. We see... Okay. Now, Joseph's at a ridiculously tough decision. He draws the water. He has a catcher. Does he just knock out the Sigilyph? If he does, he gets a prize, but at the cost of losing his Blastoise. It's not a very good trade-off, is it? But what choice does he have? He really doesn't have anything going for him. He could just rush in, heal his Blastoise off by 20, force Isaac to have a catcher, and then another Prism or Blend to do the extra to knock out the Blastoise. It's really his only option at this point. Or just go for it, catcher out Sigilyph, Hydro Pump it, and we'll go from there. Really, no matter what he does, he's not going to be in a great situation. Looks like he decides to catcher out Klinklang. I really don't understand this play. He's actually going to retreat his Blastoise, which will open up energy retrieval options, I suppose. But yeah, catching out Klinklang does absolutely nothing, because, well, Keldeo has Rush In. So we can see maybe some frustration setting in from Joseph. It happens. Stuff doesn't go your way. You start to lose sight of things. It's just a part of tournament play. You don't always play perfectly, which, that's not something you should look down on a player for. These tournaments are very high-pressure situations that, you can't blame someone for not seeing everything all the time. Sometimes, you just get frustrated. This tournament was also in the middle of a mini marathon, so this is day 2 of, just a grueling 3-day marathon of tournaments. So, even fatigue can get you at this point. I know I was very tired when I was playing all these tournaments, so that could impact players' play as well. But we'll see what happens here. We do see a Juniper out of Isaac after he catches out the Blastoise, and there is the blend. So this game is going to go downhill really quickly for Joseph, unless he top decks a Juniper or an N. It looked so strong for him, that turn 2 Blastoise. The Juniper and then sputters out. That can happen. From my experience with the Blastoise deck, that can happen very easily. If you just don't draw the water energy, you miss a supporter at some point. That can just be it. But now we have an N, so maybe he can start to mount a comeback here. He's going to draw 6 cards off of this. He has not actually taken a prize. Isaac has taken 1, so he'll draw 5 cards off his N. And maybe we can get a Squirtle out here. And if that survives, and he can evolve that into a Blastoise, this is a deck that can easily make a comeback. Let's be real about it. Blastoise is a deck that can just get a Keldeo EX out with a ton of energy and then end your opponent and come back from there. So it's going to really just depend on what Joseph draws at this point. We'll see what he gets. We see a whole lot of nothing, like a Wartortle, a Mewtwo, some Waters. Maybe that wasn't a Wartortle, that was a Roselia, my bad. But no Squirtle, that's the big one. And he's going to have to pass. So if you're Isaac, you're probably on Cloud 9 at this point. You're in complete control of the game. You're really in no danger of being knocked out anytime soon. And what more could you ask for? Everything is just swell. You got a bunch of energy in play. You got your Klinklang out. You got a Sigilyph that's going to be good against all these EXs. And you're really just feeling safe. He has a catcher in his hand to maybe catch out the Roselia or the other Keldeo with energy. But I think he might be better off just using Secret Sword for 110. And then next turn he can just catcher that out and Secret Sword it again for 2 prizes. Joseph does top deck Squirtle. He's choosing not to put Mewtwo down, maybe being a little cautious about that. Maybe it might be a good choice to just put it down at this point to draw an extra card off Bianca. But he decides not to. He's got another level ball here for probably another Squirtle. Just get 2 out there. You do see that Squirtle in his deck. So he's on the comeback trail. He does not have everything just yet, but he might soon. And we'll see him put down another Squirtle. I suppose he could have saved that for a Roserade next turn, but you're much better off just getting 2 Squirtles out in case one just gets catchered and knocked out. You don't want that happening. You want to get Blastoise out, otherwise you will not compete with this deck right now. So we'll see where this goes from here. He does have a catcher, but that's not useful at all. Keldeo EX makes catcher quite useless in terms of stalling. You can always just rush in and then, well, Keldeo's out there. In Isaac's deck, it's just rush in and then I get free retreat with the Prism thanks to Darkrai. I can just move energy wherever I want. So catcher is absolutely worthless in terms of buying time against Klinklang. Same concept as it is in the Hydreigon deck as well. Which is really, really nice. You know, it's really annoying when you get stalled by catcher just, you know, having a big retreat guy up there. Nobody likes having that happen. And that just is not a problem for Klinklang. Same thing as the Hydreigon deck, where you pretty much just have all dark energy. Darkrai gives your stuff free retreat. Darkrai and Keldeo are pretty good, I must say. Now, let's see where Isaac decides to go from here. He's got an Ultra Ball. Maybe he could be going for another Klinklang. Can't really tell what he's doing. But he is in firm control of this game. It could swing around at any point. Blastoise is that powerful of a deck when it gets going. Looks like he's going to Ultra Ball for Mewtwo. Takes it back. He might just be trying to thin his deck out of cards. You see, discarded a Terrakion EX and a Skyla. And yep, he's going to grab that Mewtwo. He won't be able to bench it, but it's just kind of there, saying, you know what? If you drop your Mewtwo, I got mine. Don't even think about it, buddy. That's exactly what's going on here. We got another Prism on the Keldeo. Now, he doesn't really need that. You should probably move that somewhere else with Shift Gear. You don't need to put an unnecessary 4th energy onto Keldeo, and he actually decides to Night Spear instead. I like this play. It allows him to just put a 30 damage somewhere. And a giant cape on a Darkrai as well. I've not seen that very often. That's pretty entertaining, actually. So, that 30 damage is going to be negated quite a bit by Pokemon Center, which Joseph does use there. And, I guess here we go. We got, oh man, Joseph's going to have to discard 2 rare candies from this Juniper. He already played one turn 2. But, oh, there's a 4th one. Okay, he could get a Blastoise out here. And I think, well, yeah, he will. And this is going to be a big turning point for him. If he had played the catcher to bring out Klinklang, he actually would have gotten a Secret Sword knockout, but there's no way to expect that happening. You can't really expect to draw all this stuff off of your Juniper. But he will be able to, you know, Ultra Ball, probably discard a Level Ball, and maybe Keldeo, maybe a Water, and then get a Secret Sword off this turn. And he could be well on his way to making a nice comeback here. As long as there's a Blastoise in his deck, of course. So we'll see what his Ultra Ball discards. He's definitely getting Blastoise here. He could also just Level Ball for Roserade, getting Blastoise. I don't like that play as much. Save your Roserade for another time. You have all the cards to just Ultra Ball. So we do see him rush in. It would be strange if he did not get Blastoise out this turn, that's for sure. You know, he has all the cards for it. Why not just go for it? Unless he knows that Blastoise is prized. And in that case, why would you put down Squirtle? But wow, yeah, he's just going to Secret Sword for 110. Maybe he's just trying to hide his hand strength. Maybe he's just kind of keeping his options open in case something happens. You know, he doesn't know where to put the energy, stuff like that. Maybe he just wants to surprise Isaac. Not really sure. Maybe I'll find out next turn. Now Isaac, he's shifting the energy off of Darkrai, and then we're going to have a Max Potion. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keldeo is, let's see, 10 short of getting a knockout here with Secret Sword if he were to move all of his energy to it. I don't think that would be a good play anyway, but he is 10 short of doing that. So we're going to see a catcher. He's going to bring up that Roselia, which is a nice play. He can take away the Roserade option. I like that. And then just Night Spear. He's going to go down to 2 prizes, actually. So just one more EX knockout in this game is over. So this turn, we definitely need to see Joseph get something. He needs a ton of energy. He tried to drop 2 on the Keldeo, but he doesn't have a Blastoise out. It's kind of weird. It's funny that they overlooked that. Oh, there we go. Okay. They realized, alright, I don't have a Blastoise in play. So he's going to Ultra Ball away. The Skylight and the Level Ball get the Blastoise out. Just a step ahead of himself. And this is actually a very big turn. If he can get all of the necessary energy to knock out this Darkrai, which is a possibility, he's got an end for 6. Isaac's going to go down to 2. We could see a huge comeback here from Joseph. You know, he does have the Sigilyph out there that's going to be tough to deal with, but that can be dealt with at some point. This game is not over yet. I don't think Joseph has gone through too many water energy, so he definitely has enough left to get a knockout here. He would need, let's see, probably like, he needs 8 energy to knock out a Darkrai with a giant cape. Or a Tool Scrapper and 7 energy. That would be for 190. So he needs 2 more energy and a Tool Scrapper, or 3 more energy, and it's not looking good from those 6 cards. Ouch. And from there, we're probably just going to see game over. He can Pokemon Center here. Heal off 20 from the Keldeo, but this is just looking very bad at this point. Because if he doesn't get a knockout here, Isaac just rushes in, moves all of his Blends and Prisms to the Keldeo, and then just hits for 150 with Secret Sword, and the game's over. He definitely needs the Pokemon Center. I think he realized that, and he was about to rush in, and then realized that he forgot the Pokemon Center. But yeah, this game is pretty much over now. All it takes is just rush in Secret Sword for 150 from Isaac, and that is going to be game over, I think. If Isaac sees this, which I'm sure he does, it's just going to be it. There's already 30 on that Keldeo, or 20 I mean, which is just enough to do 150 with the Secret Sword. So I think Isaac is going to do the math here. Let's see. 50 plus 100, that's enough to get a knockout. Oops. Maybe not. Looks like he might just Psychic. Yeah, so maybe he missed that. It's not that big of a deal. But he could have just won this turn. So, definitely an oversight there, unless I'm miscounting something. Should be 20 damage on the Keldeo EX, and then he could just rush in and Secret Sword for enough to win the game. Right? 5 water energy, 50 plus 120. Yeah, that should be enough to win the game. I guess it doesn't matter too much, but be nice to win the game. Unless there's only 10 on the Keldeo, then I apologize, because then obviously he wouldn't get a knockout there. So here, looks like Joseph will survive another turn, but he's still going to be in major trouble. His Keldeo has a ton of damage on it, and unless he plays Super Scoop Up, he's just in trouble. There's no way for his Keldeo to survive. Absolutely no way. He's got an Energy Retrieval in his hand. you know, maybe he could power up his other Keldeo. I don't know. There's no real good way to do this. Let's see how many water he has in his discard. There's 3 in there already. I didn't see any more energy retrievals left in his deck. So, no matter what happens, he's just going to be in some trouble. I guess he could power up Blastoise here. Then he can play an N. And we'll go from here. If he gets 2 more water, he can just Hydro Pump the Sigilyph. I guess that's his plan here. The problem is if his Blastoise gets knocked out, then he just loses anyway. So it really is just game over. We're kind of just drawing this one out, folks. Isaac has pretty much won this match at this point. I wish I could make it more exciting, but that's the reality. He probably should have won last turn, but no matter what, there's just no way that Joseph can come back from this. It just seems impossible. He will get a prize. He does draw the 2 water off of his N, so he'll be able to Hydro Pump. He can also Pokemon Center and heal 20 off his Keldeo, bringing him down to 110 damage. Shouldn't be too relevant. But that is the situation. Got a Hydro Pump knockout. And here comes Keldeo. And it looks like Isaac drew... Well, he's got a Heavy Ball. It's not going to help too much. But he can just Secret Sword for a knockout here. I think he should... Let's see, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. No, he does not have enough for a knockout. So, oh. Huh. Maybe he could come back from this. I thought Isaac would have enough to just knock out the Blastoise. And then he would just win the game. But he's actually 1 water short of that. Huh. So this game is not over. That turn where Isaac could have just knocked out the Keldeo for the game, I think. Because he used Psychic for 100. And that Keldeo had 130 on it then. I think. I don't know. Anyway, that's in the past. But if Isaac draws a catcher here, he wins. And oh, we got the catcher. There we go. Game over. Isaac Soto will take this match. He's still undefeated. Moving into the top 4 of the Greenwood, Indiana City Championship. Congratulations to Isaac. Joseph put up a big fight there, but in the end, could not take down the big Klinklang monster. And well played by both players. Isaac takes the series, and he's going to keep rolling on with Klinklang. So thank you for watching, guys. We'll have more matches from the Indianapolis City Championship Mini Marathon coming up soon. I'm Pooka from the Top Cut. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys for the top 4.